Shows that make you laugh. Shows that make you think. Music that moves you. It could only be one place. Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
The Marla and Dave radio experience begins in 3, 2, 1.
Now, if you're ready, we will begin.
Welcome to the Marla and Dave radio show. This is reality radio with a couple that keeps it real. Current events, pop culture, music, relationships, fitness, the hot topics of the day. Marla and Dave Thomas. This is the Marla and Dave radio show. Real radio.
Welcome to the Marla and Dave show. I am such a lovely guest with us today.
I have to say that we've had a lot of guests on the show, and we've even started to get, so I'm struggling here. We've even started to get some repeat guests. But of all of the repeat guests and guests to come, you are by far one of the loveliest.
Well, thank you. I don't know how biased that is, judging on the fact that
It's very biased, but just accept it. Accept our biased praise.
You came out of us, but now you're your own person, so we can admire you from a distance. It's different than,
Got it.
Yeah.
We have a great show planned for you guys today. Usually we have several guests come in and hang out with us, but today, really, it's the Marla and Dave show. We have our family here. Lexi, our daughter.
Part of our family.
Yeah, part of our family, Lexi, our daughter. And you listeners and watchers, viewers are going to be our guests.
Right. Well, I don't know that we should start with our... We didn't even ask... Are we good hosts that we're kind of rude that Lexi's joining us all for the entire show and we didn't even ask her to submit her own mood song? Who knows what kind of mood she's in if we don't play music? She just has that deadpan look on her face.
She and I were talking about that in the car coming over here, and basically she was saying Mom was rude. But anyway,
I was in that car. I didn't hear that conversation. The car is not that big.
It's telepathically.
Lexi, if you had to submit a mood song,
well, now you're putting me on the spot. I don't know.
Well, if you played something that you're in, your mood is complex.
I can't pinpoint a song for that, so you have to get back to me. Catch me on the.
She's in sort of a Coltrane.
Catch you on the flip side?
Catch me on the flip side.
All right. Well, we have a lot going on. We invited you guys here today for, a very powerful conversation based on the crisis that our family has found themselves in recently that has us soliciting essentially and growing a fund to help this very worthy young lady actually graduate and actually exit Syracuse after doing 4 years of undergrad work as a broadcast journalism major. We're going to get into all of that, why we're here, what it all means, where we're going from here. But in the meantime, let's start with our normal thing. Here's my mood song. Well, there you go. There's my mood song. Dave, what do you have up your sleeve?
Well, Tony hit me.
You see, I'm thinking it's done, but I catch something from the side of my eye. And if I don't move my head, I know that I'd be dead over lane changing what could make a man so angry.
That's what we gotta do. That's what I gotta do.
Pretty powerful. Okay, so before we even get into the show, let's talk right quick about our week in review. There's a lot of birthdays that have passed by. As a matter of fact, a shout out to Michaela and John. I was at Sheila Lee's birthday dinner the other day, and this couple is so cute, and he wants his wife, Michaela, John wants you to have another baby. Now, here's what's in it for you.
Does he need you to actually explain that?
Dave, they have 2 children.
Huh.
She works so hard to get back in shape. She doesn't want to, and he adores his wife. All I'm saying, Michaela, is look into my eyes. If it's a girl, her name will be Marla. That's what's in it for you. So tonight, make it happen. That's what I'm saying.
Michaela. Don't do it. Anyway, I'm not saying you don't have the baby.
Don't let John find you.
John, I'm really not saying don't make the attempt.
Lexi's home, obviously, for spring break, which is also part of our week in review. What else? There was a birthday dinner that, Tony,
It was very interesting dinner, as a matter of fact,
what was so interesting about it?
because it was just kind of, everybody was kind of bummed out,
Well, we had a lot.
especially you.
We had an emotional. This whole first quarter of the year, honestly, for me, has been emotional, and it all just came down to the one dinner. Something about oxtails and rice just really just pours out
It's
the
like,
raw emotion.
it's real
in me.
soul food,
yeah,
huh?
It's like it's
Yeah,
like
okay.
I'm trying to hold it down, not the oxtail.
And then when you're washing it down with wine,
Yeah,
that'll get
yeah.
you.
Oxtails and wine. That's
Not so much the oxtails as much as it was the wine.
It's a powerful. That's a powerful combination. What else? Wow. Last week. We had our grandson at the house this weekend, which is always an event. He is so
He's becoming a little comedian. as a matter of
hilarious.
fact.
Dave,
He's
what's
a
your
5-year-old comedian.
what's your comedy story?
Well, my Cameron story, the most recent one, we were on our way to his little basketball game. He's a basketball phenom, by the way, a little star of his team. And he said to me, Pappy, I was actually making up. Earlier he told me what his dream was that night. He says, Pappy, I was kind of making that up. My real dream was I was changing clothes with the Barbie doll and playing with the Barbie doll. And, I didn't want to say it because that's girl stuff. I was doing girl stuff. And I said, oh, that's okay, buddy. He said, no, well, Pappy, I guess you just can't help your imagination. I didn't do it. It's my imagination. So I guess you just can't help your imagination. I said, I guess you just can't help it, buddy.
Oh my goodness! And you should always.
It's okay with Pappy.
With a lot of the stuff that he comes up with, I always catch the best moments. Just feel free to watch him on my Facebook as he's making the fortune about him, and in letter style. Dear Cameron, you're going to be signed up for baseball, dear Cameron. I'm like, okay. So now fortune cookies are meant to actually tell your parents exactly what it is that you want, that you don't think you're getting. But
Yeah,
anyway,
I don't blame him. It was a good try.
So
It's a
we
good
have
try.
we have all of that. Lexi, what about you? What stands out about your week? Oh, I did call you the other day to tell you that if you had been in Syracuse on this particular day, it was exactly 28 degrees in Syracuse and 82 degrees here in LA. A complete.
Well, first and foremost, I guess my week really, vitamin D. Big ups to vitamin D being out of Syracuse and in the sun. That feels good.
Yeah, that
So
is.
just because it's cold, there's no sun in Syracuse?
It kind of goes hand in hand. I mean, it's pretty cloudy constantly, and it's either snowing or hailing. That was new the other day because it was too cold to snow, but it had to come down somewhere, so in some form. So it came down as ice pellets. That was nice. But yeah, having sun, good weather. It's the little things.
Well, we're going to get more into what it's like even for you as a student in Syracuse throughout the course of this particular show. But we are glad to have you at home, and as usual, glad to see you. It's always weird to see you when you've come home from a long winter in Syracuse because we gave birth to you. You were a black girl. Now you go to Syracuse and you come back a white girl. I don't know how it happened.
It happens.
But
hey.
it happens, and I try. I just want you to know
It's actually adds to the variety of life. It's pretty cool with me.
I'm identified
We're
with.
our own little melting pot. It's nice.
Yeah.
I did it. It's self-sacrifice. You're welcome.
Well, I'm gonna receive you no matter what because I know your heart, I know your soul, and I know you belong to me because I have this little group of stretch marks right here that have your name on them. Not these other ones, but
What a
these.
blessing. You're welcome.
Yes.
I want to give a shout out to those in the chat room right now at the UBN website. We have our regulars as usual. We have some other people checking it out. Don't want to really say who you are, your name, but we definitely want you to communicate with us. We want to talk to you. We don't want to talk at you. The number to call in is 323-284-7826. Hit us up.
And as we get going today, as we go in and out of segments, several people have supported Lexi in her GoFundMe to raise money, and I'd like to just say thank you. And I will be naming those who want it to be named, meaning that if you're anonymous, just know that we're saying thank you to you as well. But your name's not
Absolutely.
here, so
Especially to you.
especially yes, we appreciate it. And right off the top, big contributors from and supporters even before the GoFundMe. my mother and father, Marlene and Tommy McCraw, and our good friend Janet Nathanson has also been very instrumental in helping with Lexi's education. Nay Bryant, Rodney Davis, Paul Thompson, Susan Rigmaiden, Clifton Davis, Osmond and Clifton Davis, not
the actor singer. Yeah.
Yes. Clifton Davis, I don't know what that was. I thought rerun. I don't know. Osmond, Coe, Kim Long, and there are more. But for now, we want to say thank you to all of you for supporting.
And we'll be back.
You're listening to the Marla and Dave radio show on the Universal Broadcast Network. Current events, pop culture, the hot topics of the day. It's time for MaD News on the Marla and Dave radio show. Ladies and gentlemen, Marla and Dave.
Okay. Wow. So, Lexi, just pull your mic up, broadcast journalism major. Let's talk about some of the things that are going on in the news today. This last week was an aviation disaster. There was the plane that slipped off the runway, the Delta flight, which, by the way, again, you're welcome that God hooked you up because you came home the night before that particular flight out of New York in LaGuardia. It slid off the tarmac and came very close to going into whatever that body
When it
water
comes
is.
to plane crashes, though, I wouldn't call these
that
disasters
was more
only
of
because
that was not as much of a disaster. It was almost
Yeah.
a miracle. I mean, the pilot was able to pull it off
Absolutely.
and prevented anyone from actually dying on the flight. People were injured, but I mean, I think they handled it pretty well.
It was
There
news,
was
though.
another plane crash. Harrison Ford was flying his World
Vintage.
War, some kind of vintage
aircraft.
plane, and had to put it down on the golf course. You know, I'm pretty sure if I was playing that course, I'd be mad. But
Really?
Are you kidding me? Yeah.
You ought to be glad that he didn't clip
yeah, that was
instead of the
he might
trees.
have
You're
messed
top
up
of
my
your
birdie.
head.
He might have messed up my birdie attempt. But to say, go on to say it wasn't a disaster, he walked away from it.
All right. The other thing that we have here, that we talked about, Harrison Ford. On the other side of the country in Atlanta, the Bobby Christina saga is sad, but it continues. She's still remaining in a medically induced coma. But it says speculations are that the family that they could possibly be feuding over money, hence having her, she's still here. And meanwhile, her longtime boyfriend, Nick Gordon, has checked himself into rehab following an interview that he did with Dr. Phil.
Well, I saw the Dr. Phil clip, and he kind of seemed like he felt like he was ambushed. And I'm sure, he was ambushed. It was sort of an intervention that they had planned, and he didn't appreciate it. But good for him for getting into rehab.
And what else? What news stood out to you? What kind of news do you actually catches your attention, Lexi?
Well, I keep up with obviously the regular news, but I also keep up with a lot of celebrity news and things like that. It's just kind of on my downtime, and I came across something. There's a lot of speculation going on right now with the fact that Chris Brown may have had a child with a model that he was formerly with, and I thought that was just kind of crazy.
Is that speculation, or is that...
Until they go on the Maury Povich show,
he's denying it. It hasn't been confirmed, but his ex-girlfriend, I guess at this point, tweeted saying that she's
now,
out.
which one?
Carucci, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Tweeted saying she's out. Good luck to Chris and his family. There's no baby drama for me. So, I mean, if it's coming from her, I don't think that his girlfriend would make that up.
And she's now recently an ex.
What would be a reason to deny having a baby when you are definitely on some level, at least economically successful? In other words, I think sometimes people dodge it because of the financial responsibility.
Well, because he's been with this girl for some years now, and the baby is 9 months old, meaning that he's obviously hiding because he was
we all
cheating.
know these hoes ain't loyal. That means him too. he sang the song. It was a prophecy.
He was trying to actually
he was testifying.
confess.
He was testifying. What's wrong with you people? Don't you know?
That's hilarious.
But anyway,
man.
so that stood out. Lexi, there was a point that you actually thought that you might actually have a little crush on Chris Brown. Is that far gone?
I was young,
Did you lose
The
that after
illusion has
Tattoo
been
50?
shattered. No, it wasn't the tattoos. It was kind of, he went through a phase. I used to think he was so cute when Fame was, to me, his peak, but then he kind of went, that album.
But at least
kinda went off the
Lexi's
grid.
crush, at the time you can say, okay, I can kind of see that. Moniece had a crush on Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, okay, that's Moniece. We're still doing Sage and cleansing the studio from last week.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, put some on me, please.
Anyway, let's get right to the show.
This ain't your mama's radio show. Can you handle handle the truth? Then get ready for a real radio experience. Ladies and gentlemen, Marla and Dave.
Okay, so let's just get right into it. And I just say, first I just want to talk about a few of the details of our crisis. But even before we go there, I want to basically explain why this show is actually taking place. It's for those of you who've at least followed me through the years, there's something that I believe that God has actually asked me to do within my own personality, and that is to literally share. I was born an open person, and I've learned to reel that in, to be tactful and responsible. But if you reach out and you go public and you say, hey, we need the village, we need your support, we need your help, to me, it's like being in a relationship. At that point, it becomes very unfair to say, hey, can you help us out? Don't worry about the details. Just do what we need you to do. Well, that's not how I run my relationships. So now I'm kind of in a quasi-distant third-party communication with all of you because you guys have become supporters to something that is the most important thing to us. So let me just say that. The other thing I'd like to say is, there are some personal guidelines that in this particular conversation, because it's very deep. Number one, today I'm only going to speak about my personal feelings. And when I say personal feelings, this is not a conversation of who's at fault. This is not a discussion of throwing stones or blame or anything of the sort, but it really is about just being transparent and sharing a reality that's unfortunate but true responsibly. And responsibly means that whatever somebody else in my family may be going through, because there's a lot of factors that are at play here, unless they're speaking for themselves, and whatever they agree to divulge about themselves is on them. So I'm going to leave that as my opening.
Marla lays the ground rules. I'm not sure that she needed to lay those ground rules, but I think she wanted to invite you into somewhat of our process.
Right. I wanted to explain that because, for me in particular, even Lexi at times, and she can talk about this, oftentimes inside my own family, I get, I can't believe, you just open up pretty much so easily, or, and in jokes, in jest in the past, Lexi's like, man, you talk to everybody. So for that reason, I think that it's important to say, because there are other people who may feel like that. I know that there's several people in some of our groups that are like, I think Marla and Dave share too much. And so to me, I feel like that your life is a cycle, and sharing to me is something that has more of an impact if it's done responsibly to help than it does to hinder. I believe that in my heart.
Well, I think one of our mantras is responsible honesty. There have been times where I have felt that I'm not quite sure if I fully agree with that, because that seems to imply that there are times when you should not be honest, or where your motivation might be in question. But I mean, as a general rule of thumb, we try to be responsibly honest.
Right. Do you agree? I mean, like, what's your take?
I do agree, but I mean, like you said, everyone kind of processes things differently in the way they feel about a lot of things, and I personally don't know if the mantra responsible honesty as much as, the need to divulge certain things. I don't know if withholding is always not honesty. That's just where my take of it. But that's, like I said, some people, there's different degrees of honesty. And I agree that there are no times where you shouldn't be honest. I don't think it's kind of a misleading statement.
What about the statement?
What
do you think about the phrase or the comment, transparent truth?
Oh, you're good at these taglines. Yes. Transparent truth is a little bit more appropriate. Nice adjustment.
Okay. So that's what we're here to do then, to share, to be.
Every time Marla speaks with a billboard, as I say, I have to take a minute and kind of think about it a little bit. Transparent truth. Is there a clouded truth? Is there such a thing?
Dave,
would it be true if it wasn't true?
The reason that this whole the responsible honesty thing, you do know how that was born.
Of course I do.
It was born because when we were early in our marriage, you used to say to me, just because you're honest, a lot of the times you felt like that my honesty, which in the past was true in a lot of cases, was actually brutal and meant to hurt. Just stab the truth right in your face, and therefore take that.
I mean, that we used to actually lay in bed and kind of joke each other's parents with things that we knew were true.
Kind of joking.
And it would go from anger to finally we were joking and
It
laughing.
was joking,
but,
yeah. Cause it only became a joke because by the time
It
you
got
wake
so
the next
ridiculous.
person up
Yeah.
at 3 o'clock in the morning to tell them your mama or grandmother or great grandma joke,
Yeah.
that you're punch drunk. It's
Now, those things
stupid.
were true, but they were brutal.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, but so that's the point. So that was the difference between, to me, transparent truth and responsible honesty. So, guys, here we are, starting in December. It was a couple of things happened. Number one, there was a shift in. Dave, you're in our.
We had a couple of tours that toward the end, last quarter
Unraveled.
of the year. You know, usually when something is on the books, it is solid, and we don't actually put things on the books that aren't solid. But for whatever reason, they fell through, which kind of left a big hole in my calendar. Specifically because at the beginning of the year, we had already set aside some time to actually take some time off the road to do some recording and some rehearsing. So suddenly you come off the road and you don't have any income that you had planned on having. That kind of puts you in a big hole. The hole was made even deeper because, I had some tax issues back in 2004. That I'd been taking care of, and I thought they were completely taken care of, and they came back to bite me in a big way at the beginning of this year.
January.
Yeah. And so...
To the tune of complete and absolute levy.
Yeah.
To zero.
And on top of that, I'm used to getting at least 10, 15 checks in the mail in the mailbox
for your royalties.
Yeah, every other day, at least in a week, I can always count on some mailbox love. And suddenly, the mailbox love wasn't there. They changed the policy, and I'm kind of like, what? Now, the mailbox, that doesn't mean that it's not going to come in, but it's delayed. And so, certain things need a cash flow, not just a promise that it's going to be there. So, that left us crossing our fingers and holding our breath to get to the end of the first quarter.
Well, to me, it was even before that, when we had also to compound that, just to deal with I will leave this private, but just a medical issue in our family as well that had to be managed.
Yeah, I didn't even mention that.
And that was where it started.
And that issue was extremely expensive, and it was also
it's
unavoidable.
Ongoing. It's ongoing and it's unavoidable.
Yeah,
and
something that no matter what, I'm not unwilling to.
We
go.
can't. Yeah, and that's not something that we're going to share more detail about because again, responsible honesty starts with your story, not somebody else's. But as a whole, we're giving you the trifecta of issues that brought us literally to our complete and absolute knees. One of the things for me that's very important is just as we go on through this day, and there's an actual segment that I want to really get focused on how it works for us. I've always been annoyed in my lifetime as a wife of almost 27 years within this marriage, because when you look at our family, all it takes is to see someone on TV.
You say you've always been annoyed?
Yeah,
So
I've always
you've
been annoyed by the
just walking around
perception.
annoyed
Yeah, I'm annoyed as a wife and a mother
Mm.
in this family. You guys hear me? You hear me? I'm annoyed. No, I'm just kidding. I'm annoyed by the perception. I'm annoyed because a lot of the times people see you on, all you need is one appearance on TV. All you need is one something that is of notoriety, and God forbid it turns out to be 10 Grammys. Because then if that's the case, what people see or expect in their mind is not the reality of that we live by. And I want to keep telling everybody that even what we do here, this is a passion, but this is creative art. It's entertainment. And when you're entertaining, it's really just about somebody else agreeing to support your brand of whatever you're bringing to the table monetarily and pay you for it. That's very subjective. So for 26 years, I call us a windfall family.
Well, I'll speak to the perception. I remember one time somebody made the comment of, "Oh, I heard you get $1 million every time you get a Grammy." And the funny thing about it is I had 2 Grammys. I was nominated for 3. The first time we were ever nominated, the group was nominated for 3. I had 2 Grammys at a time when my manager at the time, we were would say to Marla, who Marla was actually working with the manager at the time, she would literally say, let me, and it was some indiscretion going on there as well, and I'll leave that there. But she would also say, well, I'm going to give you a recipe how to make hamburgers out of oatmeal.
Oatmeal patties.
Yeah.
So, the bottom line is, and that's the thing. So people are stuck in the glitz and they're stuck in the glamour, and I don't even know if most people want to hear the reality. I think that the reality sometimes is so harsh that it takes you away from your ability to dream. Let me tell you, if you're dreaming of being me, stop today. You do not want to be me. Period. I'm saying that because I've heard it a million times.
Now, I sometimes for me, I take issue with statements like that, and I'll tell you why. No matter how low you think you are at this moment, there's many people far lower than you.
I'm not.
And so to say that, that's.
I'm gonna go back at you with an offense of that. Since the time being a little girl, being born to someone who was a Major League Baseball player, and my parents always being of the affluent community on some level, to take away or to minimize what somebody may feel because of a title or a label or a place that they have in life, to me is dehumanizing. And I was talking
dehumanizing?
I was talking to Brandy about that. And Brandy kind of got like, she was kind of a little choked up about my statement. I said, just because you're Brandy and just because you can run out and buy 2 or 3 Range Rovers and you live in a huge house or whatever, doesn't mean that if I pinch you, I said, and I pinched her and she was like, ow. I said, exactly. She feels that she's human too. So it's not. So
that's not what I'm speaking about.
I am though. I
understand what you're speaking about. What I'm speaking about is if you say someone don't aspire to be in a position like me, that's like saying.
I'm speaking for myself, and I really do mean that and I'll tell you why I mean that. For me, there are a lot of tools that I gave up that I would like to have acquired to be able to support my family in times like these. But in reality, Dave, you and we picked a very traditional lifestyle, meaning that at 20 years old, I came into the marriage with a baby. We got married when she was 1. We then had our son, and then we had our beautiful, illustrious, fantastical baby.
Stop.
Which is so funny. We still call her the baby. But anyway, you and I have had long discussions, and there was at one point before we started producing more children and growing our family, you took on the role as the provider, and I pretty much took on the role as the caregiver. So we're very traditional in that way. So technically, once you are responsible for a house and children, what has to be done doesn't necessarily allow you to move about the country freely. I could only work jobs. There was no career that I was able to have at that point. So when I say don't aspire to be me, that's exactly what I mean. What I mean is the stress, the responsibility, and the lack of tools that I've afforded myself to be able to manage it better for all 4 of you is something that weighs heavy on my heart. That's heavy for me. Because
and no one's taking away your heaviness.
I don't want you to take it away. You can't. But anyway, I want you to respect and honor that particular thing. Sandra Hawkins is saying that we keep referring to you as Lexi, and they know you as Drew. Would you like to say?
No, she said it's listed on the screen as Drew.
Right.
Well,
that's her.
There is a story about that. Well, I was born Drew Alexis Thomas.
Well, you weren't born with a name. I gave you that.
Well, yeah, born to
my
Marla
knowledge. Gave you that name.
Yeah, no, single-handedly. She created me by herself, actually.
Yeah.
And named me.
No, I didn't. I had
sex.
sex. And
when I was older, I don't want to hear that. The older I got and became, I guess, conscious of my name, I didn't like it because I said it was a boy's name. So I asked my family and everyone else not to refer to me as Drew. And then I started doing voiceover work and some commercial work as a young kid. And my name I got paid as Lexi and everything else. So when I went to kindergarten, they asked me, they knew my situation. Do you want to be called Drew or Lexi? And me, being confusing, said, well, let's try Drew. I've never tried that before. So I live this double life where everyone I meet through school associations, and legally my name is Drew, but family members all know me as Lexi since I could basically speak.
Which do you prefer?
And that's a story. I'm kind of going back to Drew now. The older I get, it's different. I see what you were going for when you named me. Good job. It's
wait,
different.
Wait,
Did you just say that?
Wait. What do you see we were going for?
It's different.
Or Marla was
I mean,
going for, I
Lexi
should
is kind
say.
of like, it's cute, but it's like little girl basic. Well, it was really Alexis, but still, I think Drew, it's different. And I also like, you were going with Ryan. I would have liked that too. I think it's a cute name.
Well, here was that the story. She's really the silent part that she didn't say is that the agreement, because she was the third baby and because Dave was dragging his feet to get his vasectomy, she showed up on her own, pretty much. But we love her. You're here. I mean, so you're cherished. It's all good.
And I thought we said we weren't blaming.
Responsible honesty.
Everything is always blamed.
That's responsible.
Dave was dragging his feet, so yeah.
Dave, were you dragging your feet to get to finish it up what we talked about?
I was dragging another part of my anatomy,
But the bottom line is, so when we found out we were having Lexi, I said, look, before we knew what her gender was, let's just call it a day. Let's make it, the initials would be DAT, which is, if it's a girl, because I'm Annette.
yeah.
And
yeah.
DRT if it's a boy, because he's David Reginald Thomas.
It was going to be a DT.
It was
going to
be a
middle
DT.
initial was going to be an A or
make
an
it
R.
feminine or masculine. So I said if it was
And
a
quite
boy,
honestly, Mom wanted you to be named Drew, whether
period.
you were a girl or a boy.
Because I was just, it was androgynous. It's time
Lazy.
to do something different. Androgynous. I just was like,
You call it androgynous. I just call it lazy. Good work.
I'm just saying. You're right. I was like, whatever. It's one name. Fix it. So she came out. She was a little beautiful little girl, and so we named her Drew Alexis.
Anyway, 323-284-7826. We've actually laid out the hole that we've been in this first quarter, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the other issues when we get back. Stay tuned.
Hey guys, listen up. Learn something. 26 years of marriage from two unique perspectives equals 52 years of relationship experience. It's time for Ask Marla and Dave. Answers to your questions about life, love, and relationship based on Marla and Dave's real-life experience. It's about to get real. Ask Marla and Dave.
I'm going to take this time, despite any Ask Marla and Dave questions that may be floating around out there. This question is going to be directed at our daughter.
So Ask Marla and Dave has become Ask Lexi.
Ask
Oh, wait a minute.
Marla
Is
and
it Ask
Dave.
Drew?
Marla and Dave.
It's Drew now. Thank you
Oh,
for asking.
sorry. Ask Drew. Okay.
Marla and Dave are going to ask Drew Alexis Lexi Thomas the question. So years ago when we started in with the Marla and Dave show, Lex, you were one of the most talked about shows that we did online video-wise because you were a high school student getting ready to, you had decided, we knew you were going to college and we weren't sure exactly where, but we knew it was going to be good. And you said at that point, the question that was asked was, and I'm going to ask you again, is it a parent's moral obligation to pay for college? So tell us a little bit about what your answer was 4 years ago and what's changed,
Well,
if anything.
I would like to start by saying, 4 or 5 years, surprisingly, I didn't realize it then, will really age a person as far as opinion and the way you see things. And for me, I can explain to you the logic then and the logic now, which, yes, my perspective has changed. But, as a 17, 18-year-old high school student, you're kind of oblivious to the fact that life happens and there are, I saw my parents and my life and my lifestyle as something that was expected. So to me, everything I got, not that I earned it, but I thought that I deserved it just by default. So it's a very entitled perspective, and I realize that now, but it was kind of just second nature for me to think, I personally thought my sacrifice of going to class, which now I see as menial, going to class and working hard and getting the grades and getting into the schools of my choice. At the time, I thought, okay, well, I did my part, so now it's my parents' moral obligation to now shell out $50,000 plus to send me somewhere. Now, 4 years later in the future...
A week.
What?
No, just joking.
4 years later in the future, I realize that, you can't... My parents are also human, and I realize that life happens, and it's no one's moral obligation. I realize that the things that have been offered to me and school, my education being one of the most expensive things I've ever requested of my parents, it's a gift, and I realize that sometimes things get in the way, and the more and more life sets in and reality and hardships, ups and downs, you start to put that in perspective. And I kind of, very cheek and tongue statement that I made 4 years ago, but I have changed, and I think that it's more so of a gift than someone's obligation, and I've been very happy to receive.
Well, there you go. Well, I'm glad you slapped yourself, because then you keep me from having to slap you here on the air. That's not even a good look. This is not Love and Hip Hop.
This has been Ask Marla and Dave, and it turned into Ask Drew. Back to the show.
Welcome back to the Marla and Dave radio show. Marla and Dave want to talk to you. Phone lines are open at 323-284-7826. 323-284-7826.
I remember when that conversation went down at the house, and it was a little bit more than tongue-in-cheek, because it got pretty heated after a while. I remember when Lexi first got accepted into Syracuse, before she got the acceptance letter from Syracuse, you had received full scholarships from a couple of universities, and you were pretty excited because she only applied, for those of you who are listening and watching, she only applied to schools on the East Coast. So she was definitely going. We were excited, and I'm like, wow, so she's got a full ride. She can even choose from which one she wants to go to take as the offer. Next thing you know, I hear Marla and Lexi around the corner screaming, ah!
No, she screamed, and I thought some bloody murder.
I got into Syracuse.
Right.
Oh, my God, I got into Syracuse. And then Marla comes around screaming. I'm in the studio working, and I remember the commercial that was on TV running around the same time was like the same exact thing. And it literally happened to me. Oh, I got into Syracuse. Ah! The only thing I was hearing is, oh, my God, $300,000. And they're like, oh, my God, I got it. I'm like, please don't choose to do this. But yeah, it was very, very strange and exciting and happy, and we made a big adjustment to make it happen.
That's true. And I want to lead into this by talking to parents right quick. First, I want to talk a little bit about why the decision, we supported the decision, number one, for her to attend such and get such an expensive education. Number one, she's right. We had always told her if she did her part and pulled her own load, and she has 50% of her education annually is paid for. So really out of pocket, we're paying right at $30,000. It's not quite 50, but right close enough. We're paying about $30,000 cash per year. Syracuse, what Lexi does phenomenally, her gift is communication, and she's a writer. She's just a gifted. She always has been. She was chosen to give her one of the 3 graduation speeches at her high school, which is a huge honor, because how many kids were at your school at the time?
Graduating, I would say 800 plus.
Right. So that
Nearly
was
1,000 a class, I would say. I mean, yeah, close to 1,000 a class, so 4,000 kids.
right. So backing her, what I did know is her goals were always so specific, and I say this to parents. So Syracuse made sense because they have the number one communication broadcast house or school, Newhouse the school communications in the country. So to me, it was a specified study. I wasn't going to spend money for her to fly across school to wear an orange jersey and jump around at a basketball game. Not $58,000 a year. And I used to tell her, you can have an experience down the street at Pierce and then transfer over to UCLA.
Well, I'll add to that. Good thing she did her part in getting good grades, because there's no way I'm going to pay that kind of money for someone who's really not taking school that seriously.
Right. So just to put you in the mind of how she got there, because many parents that I've spoken to within the course of this 4 years have said to me directly, you're crazy. I wouldn't have done it. I don't even know why. You just put your foot down. And when we were doing the moral obligation show, a lot of parents were like, they're on their own. After 18, I'm not shelling out one dime.
Which Marla and I, she touched on it earlier. We come from two completely different backgrounds. My parents didn't pay for me to go to school. Marla's parents paid for her to go to school. Pretty much once I turned 18, I was working and taking care of myself. So matter of fact, I used to marvel at my kids, Lexi, you and Moniece and DJ, when, the day I turned 15, I didn't even want to go to school. I wanted to go straight to the DMV, get my permit. The day I turned 16, I literally...
So did I.
Yeah, I know. You were the only one. I literally did not go to school. I got my dad to take me to the DMV.
I think I
in
slept
the
at
morning.
the DMV in a sleeping bag.
I got my license. I was like, man, I'm up out of here. Matter of fact, I was making plans to be on my own. And that was just, it seemed like there was a little shift in our family.
I will say, though,
from my perspective, to something
not that puts you at fault as
different.
a parent, but like you said before, we were on, this is, I think this was a very loving act of parenting that you guys took upon yourselves to say, if you do X, Y, and Z, I will provide X, Y, and Z. So my programming, my mind from the time that I was a little kid, it was never assumed. So I always knew I wanted to go to school. So I didn't think that I was setting up to not have to work, to go to school, to do X, Y, and Z, because that was the deal that was laid out for me. Now, had that conversation never been had, maybe my mindset would have been a little bit different, and I would have been like, okay, well, around 16, start planning to move out of the house. Not saying that that you weren't great and everything, giving me, and that this was a luxury, but it was kind of a mindset that was set up.
If you knew you had to scrap to get it early on, in other words, look, you better figure it out. If that had been what was told to you, is what you're saying.
Your parents never sat you down and said, hey, Dave, you do this. You were a great student. You were really smart. You do this. We'll pay out wherever you want to go. You got it. You do your part, which is purely educational, and we'll financially back you.
And to also be a cooperative child, which she was. We don't do the bonehead thing.
Now, Marla, you have to admit there are times in making decisions like this when you feel like at one point, that's something that we should really do, and then something turns back around and becomes burdensome. It's like, man, it's been a big adjustment, which it has been an extremely huge adjustment.
But that's, for me, the compression that I call my life. See, what I've sacrificed at this point personally, which is interesting, is that my life has been compressed by choice. So I'm not complaining about the compression. I was ready to make this last final, she's the baby of the family, this 4-year sacrifice to get her to here. We no longer have our home. We moved into a small 2-bedroom place. A lot of changes that just, it's literally like, if you can just say through the fire, you become gold. I've been, basically taking half breaths to get her to the finish line. And then I can't even consider me until her mission, essentially, and what we've all invested in this goal. So yes, there are times that the burden is heavy. And like I told you, heavier for me, because part of what has to happen is I have to depend on everyone else, mainly you, because you are the provider. So I have to, and that feels like a burden too. Like I have to, everything kind of has to come through you. There was a period in our lives for about 4 years where I was completely financially solvent. I was good. Matter of fact, we flipped a lot of stuff around at that point, and then we got smashed with the economy, which was the first big thing. So it's, trust me when I say, sometimes because home is my job, I feel this burden more than anyone else. And so that, hence the GoFundMe, because when I had tried at this point, we had gotten her into the very last semester, everything that I could try, including loans, that we could not get. We've got tax issues, whatever the case is. Everything I can try before taking this step had been tried. So this was something that I almost feel like God was like, look, jump out there on faith. And the thought came, the process of using actual GoFundMe came from a lady that I know, Hope Polk, who does life coaching. But the concept came when I looked at our communities that we share with, all of our social communities, and my brain thought, if we could just open up and receive help $1 from everybody on both of our social networks, the goal would be met. And I started even thinking about the change that rolls around your car. Like, in other words, I don't know that many people who are going to suffer with the gift of $1. But in my brain, it was that small, and I think like a giver. So, yeah. So when you say that the burden gets heavy, it is very heavy for me because, not to mention the fact I'm a mom. So you tend to compartmentalize. I'm super emotional. And the roles we play, the life we live, leaves me, which is what I say all the time. I think that you're the CEO of the company, but I'm the person who's literally doing all of the hands-on management. You're just as invested as I am.
You're the COO.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm
Chief Operating.
Yeah,
You're not?
I'm not the chief anymore.
Okay.
I've stepped down.
Okay.
I resigned. In case you guys are asking if I'm the COO, I'm not. But anyway, so yes, So when you say from time to time, does the sacrifice get crazy? Of course, because it's really hard for me to not be able to do more. That's how I feel.
Okay.
Okay, just okay. Okay, so let me also get to this. I keep referencing our lifestyle. I like to say what you see in life is never the whole story. And someone made a post on my Facebook underneath her GoFundMe.
Can I interrupt you right there? Before we go there, I would be remiss if I didn't go back and catch what Bridget was asking in the chat room. She said, Lexi, what are your plans after college? And first of all, thank you, Bridget, and everyone else who's been contributing to the GoFundMe campaign. Bridget wants to know, what are your plans
well, right
after
now,
school?
I'm majoring in broadcast and digital journalism, and I am minoring in political science. And what I really plan to do is take my writing, I guess, to the next step. I do love all the aspects of working in a newsroom functionally, but I do really love writing. And over the winter, I actually stayed in Syracuse for an internship with NBC, a local affiliate there. And I did both producing and reporting. And I really, really did love the idea of kind of, not that I'm a control freak. I like to think I'm a control freak in a good way, but I love the aspect of, producing, running the show, putting it together, having the concepts that kind of visually seeing exactly how things should go concept-wise and everything. So definitely something within writing, producing. I'm a little undecided in that aspect, but I am applying and looking at opportunities in all aspects of that spectrum.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you when I was visiting you in October, you tried to actually take over and control and produce Tony Sweet Show by sending us all kinds of information. We don't need you for that, Missy. We like our Mr. Sweet. Thank you, Tony.
Sorry, Tony.
Anyway, you were saying about something on Facebook.
Anyway, so I want to discuss right quick the smoke and mirrors, and we kind of briefly brushed across it. Just like you were saying when I said, you don't want my life. What I really mean by that is I really want to encourage everybody to not do your best to not take on the pieces of someone's life that you see that you think are the parts that you're missing. Because when I say you don't want my life, I don't want your life either. This is my life, but there's a lot of challenges unless you glamorize somebody else's situation. And so my life comes with a lot of things that may not be standard. For example, somebody posted on my Facebook, I guess this means no more trips to Hawaii. And respectfully, I made the comment that I did because that's how I feel from my heart. But most likely, I'll be in Hawaii again. And why would I be in Hawaii again? It's because it's paid for. One of my best friends now lives in Kauai, and I've been offered a ticket to go there and to go to Oregon but it means zero expenses. So there are things that happen in different people's lives, things behind the scenes that you may or may not know. Like, for example, it's hard for me. I'm so open that I'm a sharer, but who shares the details? Like, who goes on and says, I got my nails done, but they were comped. Guess what? Somebody hooked me up and did my hair. You don't, you see these things, and it wouldn't satisfy a lot of people unless I was bald and walking around barefoot and I had holes in my clothes and I was talking to myself. If I were filming that, they would say, okay, she deserves it. So what I really say is, and this was a good lesson for Lexi, I can only be me. I always look on a spiritual level, and like my mom and I talk about this all the time, how I was born, what I was born into, that literally puts you into a flow of life. David and I met when we were 6 and 8. Who orchestrates that? Nobody. So in other words, this isn't, me projecting a one thing or another, or even going out to try to, secure something. Because a lot of women are like, oh, I gotta, she worked it. Well, no, we were kids, and it just so happens that what he does, or what he ended up doing with his life, was public. But careful. There's a difference between judgment and jealousy. I'm going to say that. Be very careful, because the more time you focus on coveting somebody else's something is less time that you actually are going to be able to use to develop yourself to receive your blessings. Bottom line.
Well, I'll say this as well. At the end of the day, no one's always up, no one's always down. So things change, financial environments, the economy changes, your positions change from time to time. So that doesn't mean that we won't go back to Hawaii. It's just that we won't be going back there anytime soon.
Well, right, as a family.
Right.
But I mean, like, for example, like I just said, you actually fly all over the place and have miles and miles. Lexi's sitting here right now because there's mileage, not because we have the money to afford an expensive plane ticket to bring her home from Syracuse. It's just that that's a perk of the job. In other words, that's just what happens. So
But, Sandra's making an interesting point in the chat room. She says that there will always be those kinds of people who, they might not want to give, or they might hate, so to speak. And you don't have to explain yourself. And at the time, you were pretty mad when that statement hit.
Oh, I was only mad at that statement. I wasn't mad at the young lady who posted the statement, because I feel like, again, that it deserves a general response. I was upset at the fact that the one like that was on that particular statement came from inside of our family. That bothered me, because nobody's been helped more through the years by us than the family. So that was very disturbing to me, because a family member can pick up the phone and call you and say, hey, what's up? So that was totally uncool, period. So my rage was not about that person. As a matter of fact, if you read my statement, I felt like that person deserved a actual response that was truly from my heart. And again, I'm a sharer. And so, I don't hear anybody complaining, our son went through a really bad time with drugs. And when that happened, everybody was, thank you so much for sharing, because my goal is, but by the grace of God, there go I. So these things were shared, and it was very important to share these things, because it's a message that transparency sometimes is the testimony of how you live is transforming to others. And I live by that creed.
Well, we will continue the conversation. Want to say, hey, thanks again to Osman. He contributed. We mentioned Bridget, Sandra, everybody in the chat room. We appreciate you guys. We will be right back with more of the Marla and Dave Show.
It's time for the Marla and Dave Doghouse. Marla has something that should put Dave in the doghouse. Dave has something that should put Marla in the doghouse. You decide who gets a biscuit and who gets busted and ends up in the doghouse.
Okay, my doghouse today offense is actually fairly new. It happened last night. And Dave, I promise this is the one.
I don't know, because
Dave,
we
no.
almost might be talking about the same one.
No, Dave.
Because I'm going to put you in the doghouse for something that happened last night, too.
Get your own doghouse. Let me just...
please.
Do we need a pair of doghouses?
I don't know nothing about the doghouse, because I haven't been in there in a while.
Anyway, here's the deal. Last night, Dave cooked dinner. He cooked...
No more. Now stop.
You stop.
You stop. What did you say? Dave did what?
No, hold on.
Lexi? Drew, excuse me.
Dave?
Tony, you heard her. She said what? Dave cooked dinner.
Would you let
yes,
me
Tony?
finish?
Okay, go ahead.
I can't. Yeah, right, exactly.
What?
So
What?
I had to go to
She meant Chef
I
Dave.
went to Sheila's birthday event and Michaela yesterday, and before I left home, Tony and Lexi, I seasoned up and totally prepared the lamb. Zip. I even put it in the crock pot.
Let me be the final word on this one.
Okay.
Both
But hurry up. You only got 30 seconds
I put it in the crock
left.
pot. I come home, which was a early event from 4 to 6. I get home, and David is guarding the corner, and I said, dude, how are you going to guard the lamb that I actually fixed? And he said, what are you talking about? You cook dinner? I've been cooking dinner. You leave. You're not even here.
Wow. I'm going to just say
Okay,
wow,
Dave-
because before
Dave's
time
side.
runs out, I'm giving my quick side
You
of
need
the
to go in the
perspective. My
doghouse
perspective, because Marla actually
52,000
belongs in the doghouse.
dinners
Hold
behind.
on, just wait. Marla says she cooked the dinner. She actually took credit for cooking the lamb. Matter of fact, I'm the one opening up the crock pot, flipping it around,
You should
making
never
sure.
open the crock pot. That shows how much you
Marla,
know.
no. What you don't know is that you didn't actually put enough liquid in
Let
there.
me step
so
in really quick.
Oh, so you did add water.
I didn't add any water to the thing. I'm flipping it around, making sure and
Dave?
turning them because they actually sear a little bit on
Dave,
one side.
did you add liquid?
Okay.
I did not.
Let me step in. Now, I will say, I went to have some leftover lamb today, and I took it out of the fridge and looked in the container, and some of the fat, you know how it congeals. There was a little excess liquid, which did appear to be water, but I'm not saying Dad put water in the lamb. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But I say
Boy.
Marla goes in the doghouse because regardless of whether in fact anyone put water in the crock pot, you came in an attacking mode when you should be thanking Dad for watching over. And yes, you might have thrown it in there, but that
On
puts
top of
anyone.
that, I was actually guarding the scallops that I also made.
That puts anyone.
she was eating.
That puts anyone on defense. Had the tables been turned and Dad walked in and said, "You put water in the lamb," you would be
No,
offended.
she
wasn't
said she
water.
cooked the lamb.
I said I did.
You would be offended. You would
I
be
did.
offended.
Me and the crock pot.
Case closed. The jury has spoken.
Okay.
I am the jury.
Because I love Lexi, I walk into the doghouse. Get out of my face. Next.
We're back to the show.
What's the action?
You'll laugh. You'll learn. You'll love. You'll get mad.
Shut up!
You'll get happy. But you won't be bored. This is the Marla and Dave radio show on the Universal Broadcast.
Now, before
We're going to open up with more thank yous. Thank you to Karis Warren. Thank you to, we said Sandra Hawkins, Daniel Jones. We also want to thank Christina and Andrew Irvin, Sandra Breslow, Daniel Visagi, Nicole Fulton, Brooke Horn, Jessica Kelly, Alton and Patty Conwell, Stacy Green, Bridget Johnson, Raquel Williams, Lori Royald, Jody Martyr, Larissa Finney, and there are more. Thank you for your
Ricky
support.
Martyr and her network. And
Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
for everybody. And we're still raising. So remember, it just takes a lot of people, hands across America, doing a small amount, and we will be able to help this child get the hell out of our house. We love you, though. You can come back. Well, you're not in the house, but it's technically, when you're in our pocket, you might as well be in the house. Same thing. Our house is now our pocket.
well, now Sandra says that Marla, excuse her. She know that she won't never put me in the doghouse. Thank you, Sandra. But now Osman comes back to your defense, and he says, "Hold on now, Marla's a Pisces. Apparently, so is he.
Yes, he
and
is.
the fish have to stick together."
Happy birthday to you.
Absolutely. But now I'm going to just say this. On air, live on camera, I hand to God, both hands, feet, if I'm sticking them up in the air, I did not
David-
put any water in the crock pot.
David, can I tell you something?
Number one,
Tony
and
doesn't deserve to be struck by lightning. You should stop all that.
there will be no striking of lightning.
Okay.
Matter of fact, there might be some lightning strikes, but it won't be over here. Anyway, and that's like saying, so when we cook together, and we cook together a lot,
That wasn't my point.
you season the meat, and I go out. And thank you. Thank you for that lightning strike, the thunder. And I spend 2 hours over the grill, like you saying that you cooked the chicken.
I will say, and I know you're already in the doghouse per my jury, but I will say that you are a very outspoken person, and you say if you don't like something, you come in, you say it. You love something, just on the other side, that's also a good thing. You can come in and be like, wow, this is amazing, honey, you did a great job. But I will say, in the past, growing up under your roof for my entire life,
Careful.
you can come in a little bit on the attack when it can be very offensive to someone who may have put some time or effort into something. Just as well, had the lamb been perfect and the seasoning been
You guys are all missing the point.
amazing. No. What I'm saying is, it
No, it's
feels,
not about, the point wasn't
just
the
like
water.
you said, don't minimize your pain. It's dehumanizing. You can't minimize someone else's effort. Period.
But
Contribution.
Did you
Contribution.
understand what you guys have all missed the point?
No.
Tony,
What was the point we missed?
the point that I was putting you in the
This
doghouse
doghouse extension.
is because you said you never cook dinner. I've been the only one cooking. That was the point. The point was,
I
dude,
said for
until
the last month or so.
Oh, yes. And so how
Or,
does that even,
recently. I
how
don't know
does
how
that
long
even
I said.
add up to the 52,612 dinners that I fixed through the years? My point is, you really are
doesn't.
tired in the kitchen?
Yeah, but
That
don't
was my
minimize
point.
everyone's
That doesn't
daily.
mean that I
That's
didn't.
all I was saying.
Didn't mean that I didn't slave over the dinner
it
that
wasn't
night.
about whether
last night.
whether you drenched the lamb with water behind my back. It wasn't about that.
See what I mean?
Wow.
That's
But
why
don't-
she's in the doghouse.
Don't minimize Marla, though. Don't minimize Marla.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure you understood what my actual complaint about the doghouse really was.
Well, how's that bone in there? Anyway,
Well, if it's a lamb bone, it's awfully delicious. I appreciate it. I sucked the marrow out.
so let's move on. We're going to talk about accepting the lesson. I want to actually start off on this segment because one of the things that actually came up, we made some adjustments over the years in our relationship as to who does what and who doesn't do what. But one of the things that came up for me, Marla mentioned that I'm the type of person who compartmentalizes. As delicately as possible for me to say this, Marla's also, like she said, she's a feeler. So when she's angry, she's really angry. When she's happy, she's really happy. Whatever she's feeling, she's really all that. And there have been times when...
You just call me crazy?
No, I didn't say that. Intense. But there were times when, I feel like one of the main tenets of a relationship, and you've heard Marla and I say this from time to time a lot on both this show and our previous show, Marla and Dave's show, Relationship CPR, communication is key. There have been times when things were difficult that I would say, you know what, let me just fix this because, this is going to cause some issues in the family. So I would just fix things and, we wouldn't really know how close we came to driving off the cliff because, I didn't say it. The couple of times where you start to do that too much and then suddenly you're too close to the cliff and you're going 80 miles an hour and pretty soon you're just not going to make the corner and you're about to fly off anyway and you got to say, guess what, wake up, we're actually in midair. Couple of times that happens, that can be very difficult. One of the things that this our situation this quarter has really caused me to understand is that no matter what I feel someone's reaction is going to be, you're entitled to that reaction, and you're also entitled to know the real.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. And I'm going to take this time, as I was saying earlier, that, I was in the process when I think part of my intensity has a lot to do, if I were honest, with fear. Fear of the things I can't control, in particular. And so I tend to wrap everything up in one big burrito and, serve it on one platter. And so for me, one of the things I want to say is, which is I even kind of brought this up, there's so much that I'm very appreciative for. In 26 years, 27 and a couple of weeks of marriage, you've been the best friend that I could ever ask for. You've been patient. You've been forgiving. I mean, there's been times in the marriage that, untoward things have happened that we've all shared, the kids are aware of, but you seem to be able to, in love, to forgive and go forward. I do appreciate all of that. And even this is kind of heartbreaking for me because we're here now trying to raise this $12,000 to get Lexi through school, but pretty much because my financial success had collapsed, we have gotten her through school not because of my monetary contributions, but strictly yours. So however it is that you're doing it, yes, I do feel a little betrayed about the communication, because I feel like, sometimes it's worth saying, wake up, I need you to help me drive. I'm too sleepy. We're about to go off the cliff. Or let's decide whether it's time for you to take over the wheel, or whatever the case. So just, this crash has been the hardest thing at a time in my life where my body can't really recover the injuries very well. It's almost like we joke about getting older. And, as I get older, I fell off of a banana boat in November, and I still have a big fat side knee. Where when
you were just saying, according to the knee, that it's feeling better than ever.
It's not feeling better than ever, but it feels like it could actually possibly heal without surgery. Like it's beginning to turn a corner.
A long-winded metaphor. Go ahead.
Thank you, news producer. At least I feel like I'm beginning to earn my. Can you continue to produce?
Yeah, I was just explaining for those that were lost. If I had been scripting this, that I would have just written down in parentheses, here comes Marla's long-winded metaphor. But go ahead.
But anyway, so I'm very appreciative, and yet in a lot of ways, hence my song, very broken, and I almost feel like that I haven't really learned in life yet. I was a mother at 19, a wife at 20, have done nothing but dedicate myself to my family, and I don't really know how to depend on myself. I only know how to give and take care of others. And that's a very hard transition at this point because of our life and the choices that we've made. There's not much for me to use to stand on at this point to grow some of my own interest responsibly. So when I say that, I see the yin and the yang. I see that there are things that I've been able to do in life, and I've been a woman who's been blessed to have really truly been loved by a man, which is Dave. But I have to also now return that on some level to myself because I'm exhausted.
Okay.
I'm exhausted.
Fair enough.
I'm beyond exhausted, but I'm not gonna rest until she's done. That's the bottom line. So to you, thank you, and I'm appreciative that we have been a couple that have been able to share our goals together, and we're fighting together for this cause.
Indeed, we are, and thanks to you as well for your commitment to the family and for cooking all those 54,000 meals over all those years, as you so adequately put it. And for the record, you are loved by a lot of people. Osmond actually said he's going to take your place in the doghouse.
Oh, don't do that until our Pisces reign is over. You can't get in the doghouse so close to your birthday, Osmond. Get out of there. I'm going to answer this question. I was in the middle of typing it. It's a little off topic, but we all can answer this. Alexis Leg. I'm sorry. Says, Marla, can I ask you, do you think that long distance relationships can work? Anything can work. But some things, you have to be able to relate. So it depends on what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Most people, I would say no, because a long distance relationship requires an extremely independent, self-fulfilled human being. Because if you're looking to be connected to someone, then it's not going to work. Because in other words, it's the simple things: somebody to talk to, somebody to sit and have dinner with, somebody to go to a movie with. Lexi, what do you think? Long distance relationships, do they work?
I agree. With the right type of person, you have to be really, I personally never been in a serious relationship. I'm really emotionally unavailable forever, but not forever. Not forever.
We're going to bring you back on a show because we're concerned about that. We don't know what's happening.
But I do think that, you have to be self-confident in the same way that I haven't been in a relationship. To me, it doesn't make sense to, and this may seem off topic, but it's connected in the same way. You have to be, I'm assured in the fact that you don't need someone's physical presence being there to validate you. So in a relationship, I think if you're long distance and you need that, a lot of people need that for validation, and it's normal. I think it's the average person needs that. But I do think you have to be very self-confident and self-assured to be comfortable enough in your relationship to allow that to work.
I will say this. I was one who would say previously in the past, long-distance relationships don't work. But I will say that, ironically, from time to time, we have a long-distance relationship. Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah, which is why I say you have to know who you are.
Yeah, and I
because
think
that definitely works for me. Are you still here? You're not on the road? Just yeah. Okay.
No,
I'm
we
saying.
won't have a long-distance relationship. Anyway,
So to
yeah,
answer
it
that
just
question
depends
to
on
Alexis Legg,
on the individual.
Yeah, it depends on the individual, and I think that that if you're going to successfully have a long-distance relationship, honest communication and constant communication are a must, or it's a wrap.
You know what? We also want to remind you guys right quick, since we were off topic, to stop by www.marlandave.com. We got a lot of stuff there for you. Marla, you haven't put up any selfies lately.
I have a whole host of MaD selfie surveys that I will be posting, and I apologize. We have been.
It's been pretty stressful lately.
Yeah, the stress levels in the Thomas family, for whatever it's worth. I know that there's someone else who's way worse off, and when I say it like that, because I agree that that's definitely the case, but for where we are at this particular point, is pretty intense. It's like everything coming at you, and the joke that I now tell is I can sum up my last 3 months in the most unbelievable of circumstances by being rear-ended on a Friday and having someone, as I stand at my car and watch, just back right up onto the hood of the car on a Tuesday. So that's just so unbelievable. And then the following Sunday, have a flat tire.
And the week before, I'm backing out, and the lady just backs right into me.
That's true. Dave got hit. Somebody backed into him in a parking lot.
3 accidents within 10 days, literally.
So that literally is kind of the sum of the cacophony in the Thomas home at this particular time. Is it acceptable?
Just let it go.
So Lexi, let's because I think that the paradigm shift is important to talk about. Now, as you have been faced with this, I've watched you even shift since you've been home. It seemed like it was very hard for you to even, I don't know if, to accept the gift. Is it because you feel like you're not, it's something that you're not worthy of, or is it just hard to?
Well, for me, I guess, like I said, when I was younger, I was very expectant. So I had no problem asking, receiving. But at this age in my life, I guess it's hard when you're making the transition between kid to adult. And at this point, I know that I'm not a kid. I'm 22 years old. And like you said,
and emotionally unavailable.
Like you said, I don't make my own I don't make my own income. So it's very hard for me to constantly be at a standpoint of let me ask to receive, knowing good and well that I have really nothing besides who I am as a person to give back. So that can be hard when you're constantly, for at this point, 22 years of my life, I've been receiving. So when I do receive, I'm at this point so grateful that I do receive, but it's hard for me to take that initial step to ask because I know that I've yet to be able to give back financially anything in return. So,
but I thought it was pretty noble. It was, it was something that was brought up, and you were very receptive to reach out and look at this as such a gift that you are going to keep record. And when you are gainfully employed, go back and make the overture to pay back the funds that people are actually gifting you with. And for those who don't want it, you and I discussed, you'll pay it forward to a charity of their choice. So I think that speaks a lot of to the character of the person that you are, which is why I have no problem reaching out and saying, this is something that I would continue to ask you to support us with. And by the way, we're almost at $4,000, and so we're still raising. So pass it along.
Absolutely. Time for some fun.
It's time to play the Marla and Dave Love Game. Here are Marla and Dave to explain how it works.
It's already there. Okay, now Marla's asking me something off topic right quick, but it's time for the love game. And we're going to play the love game, a game created by, we're going to play with our daughter. It's kind of gross.
I don't even know what the game's about. I already don't want to play, so.
The MaD Love Game is a game created by Marla and me. It has 3 categories: sex, communication, and finance.
I'm not playing this.
You're playing the game. You're going to play the game. This is why you need you're emotionally
the main
stifled.
ingredients of a relationship, and it's played by rolling a single die that has the categories on here, and it also has the MaD logo. The MaD logo represents your choice. You can choose. It's wild. Lexi, we're going to pass you the die. Sorry about that. Let you roll.
Communication.
Communication's a nice try,
communication major. Oh, this is perfect.
She said no. She panicked.
Here's your question, Lexi. Who handles a crisis better, men or women?
I think that's a very rigid question.
Think about subjective, but yes, we
think
need
about
one
the
answer.
lamb. Think about the lamb.
I genuinely do think, for the most part, it's usually men. And this isn't always the case, but I think that men have they have more of an emotional control for the most part. This obviously isn't the case for everyone, because I've met some pretty
Girl, do you understand there's a movement called Free the Nipple?
Emotionally out of control.
What are you doing?
Men, but at the same time, which is a gift. I think a woman's
Not yours, Tony.
ability, a woman's emotions, which are usually pretty intense, is a gift, but it's also a curse. And I think that sometimes it's hard for women to be able to wade past all of their emotions to be able to get to the logical root of a problem and solve it.
So that
Well,
was a long
no, let me-
time.
now
So
we-
that was a long metaphor.
we
But
use-
for what?
I think
Marlon's trying to get back.
I think
we
that
used
I am actually a great problem solver, and I am a woman, so I'm saying
Oh,
there are
you're
exceptions to the
you're
rule.
the exception to the rule. Okay, so we use the PEW
She said
research
men.
center to actually. She says
I
men.
said men.
And according to the PEW Research Center, men tend to handle mid-level crises better than women because women tend to overwhelm initially. Now, for the further discussion question is after the initial reaction or drama, could women be better at crisis resolution than men?
Of course.
Yes.
Because we can add logic and emotion.
It's the
You
initial
guys don't
drama.
have-
Women get riled up really quickly, and they get emotionally. It kind of jars them from seeing to the root of the problem. So I think
Now, even though I couldn't put all the research on the card, actually, the research indicates that women, when it actually gets to a way over the top level, women seem to handle extreme crises better than men.
it's interesting.
It's very interesting.
That's what
So
I'm
we
trying
have
to
time
say.
for one more. Let's quickly roll it again. We should make her do a sex.
She's
Except I don't wanna know the
emotionally
answer.
stifled.
Marla and Dave, what are the questions? The topics?
Should we just make her do a sex one?
No,
No, she
you
gets
can't.
to choose. You
You
can't.
get to
Free
choose. That
choice.
makes it wild.
Okay, what are the other ones?
Money,
Finance,
finance,
sex, and communication.
Communication.
Hit
sex.
me with another communication.
Another communication. Okay.
Oh my goodness, you're so boring. Are you a librarian?
Here's one. Other than a man's physical attributes, what do women generally think is the most attractive trait in a man?
I would say for me,
This is gonna tell us a lot.
this is hard. I would say a sense of humor, because not even. It's a specific.
Have you heard the one?
It's a specific sense of humor for me because I have a very sarcastic, almost sometimes dry sense of humor. And I've been on dates and hung out with people where I say something that's meant to be a joke, and if you're up with your wits, you'll understand that it's a joke. But there's nothing I hate more than people who aren't on their toes as far as humor goes, and I have to sit back and then I'm awkward because I'm awkward.
So you mean a guy has to be funny and smart?
Yeah, but
That's what it is. It's
witty.
intelligence.
I guess intelligence. I guess let me recant my first statement. It's not as much smart. Funny. It's smart because it's a wit that it requires, I think, a level of intelligence that if you
to
can't keep up-
recognize the humor. All right.
Right quick, humor was the correct answer, but so you kind of steered away from that. But you're on the
You're
right
so
track.
hand in hand. It's
You're
hand
so-
in hand.
You're
It's-
such a book
it's
smart.
intelligent humor.
All right.
Okay,
Thanks for playing the MaD Love game.
Absolutely. I never do anything without thinking about it first.
Marla is a feeler.
I basically wear my personality on my sleeve.
But when Marla and Dave get together, it's like a match dancing with a firecracker. This is the Marla and Dave radio show on the Universal Broadcast Network.
Aunt Devonna in the chat room.
Devani.
Yeah.
Me too. I'm laughing at Devonna. Devonna, she's 22 now. What? Since you
I
are
didn't
her-
want to know either, Devonna.
since
Trust
you
me.
are her second mother, and the girl just told you that she's emotionally stifled, what have you submitted of a suitable suitor for our daughter? Does anybody out there have anyone that can contend with her wit, beauty, intelligence, and charm? And she's so humble. Look at you.
We're going to jump right to the poll question. The poll question last week was, is it considered bullying when celebrities criticize other celebrities on shows like The Fashion Police? We all know what happened. Your options were yes, hashtag no exemptions, and no, hashtag you signed up for it. The results are, it was no, hashtag you signed up for it, 80%, and yes, hashtag no exemptions.
20.
We got 20, obviously. Yes.
Right. Well, we're the question we asked Lexi today. We'll lead that. That is going to be our poll question. So, for all of you who tune into the Marla and Dave Show, download the Marla and Dave Show and are consistent. By the way, thank you for supporting us. You should go on our website. Next week's poll question is just that: is it a parent's moral obligation to pay for college? Yes. Hashtag birthright. No. It's a gift. So that's what we want to hear from you. We're having this discussion. This is the focus for our family at this particular point. And this question Lexi has answered years ago, and now she's answered it again, completely different. What do you think about that question? And so we'll get your answers on our MaD poll.
Back to the conversation.
Can you handle the truth? This is modern American dialogue in a mad world from two unique, fresh, transparent perspectives. This is the Marla and Dave Radio Show.
Wow. Several things. This is our recap. For those of you who may not have had a chance to join us, or you might just be joining us now. We are, I've been through so much, and we've been through so much in life, that faith plays a huge part. I know in my heart that God did not create this child through us, but to be the unique and awesome individual she is, and for her to get this far, and for us to be able to not pull her out of this, however it is that he chooses to deliver. It doesn't have to even be through your contributions, but they definitely at this point are helping, and we're overwhelmed and elated by the support. Lexi, I know that you're going to get through this. I know that we've had some tears. I know that things have been as dark as you've ever known them to be, and to be honest, kind of me too. At this point, I'm just sitting back, and when you get this much pressure, it is impossible. Dave used the analogy of driving off the cliff. It's very much like that. And right now, I'm clear. I've done all the things. I checked the engine. I know I had good tires. I put my seatbelt on. So surviving this crash is something that's really in God's hands. And I have no doubt that when we land, we may be bruised up, but we're going to make it. So that's what I do know. And I've let go. I had to let go, and what's left at the end of Marla's let go is more love. And you know what? I want to thank all of you guys, because it's really, this crisis in particular has recommitted me to understanding that it's so important that I listen to what I've been designed to do, and it is to share honestly and openly and responsibly. I will continue to do that, because I can't let someone else's judgment, criticism, or scrutiny stop me from being me. That's a travesty. I can't lose my Marla-ness. I've been this person since I was a little girl, and I'm going to continue on. And the 20% of you who may, and I don't even know if it's that much, but however the small percentage of you who use everything that happens to say see or to hate or criticize or judge, do what you have to do. But I know that staying open, as I've been asked to do, is the only way to receive the blessings that God has in store for me and for my family. And that's what I'm going to do.
Well, I will add to what Marla said, and she summed it up pretty well. That a long time ago, Marla is as she mentioned, a more open person naturally than I am. She's a true extrovert, which, from my definition, is someone who is energized, and she's re-energized by things outside of herself, by communication and hanging with other people. I am a true introvert by nature, which the converse is also true by definition. I actually am. I do well in public, but I actually get re-energized and I get refilled by myself when I'm home alone, usually spiritually and things like that.
Pouring water on my lamb.
But anyway, so when we first came up with the Marla and Dave show years ago, it was a different twist for me. It's a natural thing for Marla to be extremely transparent. It is not natural for me at all. So the one thing that I have learned is that through all of this, that there was one last little level of pride that had to be broken, and for me it was a huge thing, and it was a true pride breaker. But what I have learned is that you don't really know how much love that people have for you until you actually need it. And so what I do want to say is that I really appreciate all the outpouring of love and support for our family, and specifically for Lexi.
Lex, anything in closing?
I just, like both of you have said, it's been difficult, and especially when all of these things are going on, and it affects everyone in our family. And me being so far from home, not being able to be in it, it feels a lot worse, and it is a hard thing to ask. And that was probably the biggest battle of all for me, to actually sit there and come humble as ever and ask for help. And I've been overwhelmed with everyone's support. And like my dad said, you don't really know how much people support you and all that you do until you ask for it. And in closing, I'm really appreciative. And as soon as I'm able to give back in every way possible, that's my full intention.
We have a few more minutes. I'm going to continue the thank yous. Cheryl Kramer, Tori Haddad, Trevor B., Joe Ellen Giddish, Jenny Zebro, who also says, to the strongest, most brilliant... Ziobro, sorry. To the strongest, most brilliant girl I know. And that's also impressive that Lexi's friends at her fellow students are also donating. Stephanie Jacobs, good luck, Drew. Ryan Williams, Adrian Alvin Chia, Uncle Alvin and Aunt Adrian. Adria. Yeah, that's blah, blah. Sorry, Adria. Shay M, keep pushing forward. Peace and blessings to you and your family. Tawny Shay, I love you. Shaw. Okay, hook me up.
That's your big sister.
I love you so much. And I'm so proud of you and all your hard work. I can't wait to see the amazing things you do. Lauren Tang, okay. Austin Dawn, who says, I wish I could give more. Good luck. Kelsey Schofield, Kim
Azugi. I'm not reading it, so I don't know.
Well, these are your friends. So Jane and Lee Vineyard, Scott Pease, Reagan Byers, Nathaniel Tolliver. And it just says, here's a little something to assist you in moving your life forward. Congrats on your upcoming graduation. NTII. All right. That's pretty much it.
And there are many more, actually.
And many more, and more to come. And there are also, and I also want to say thank you for Daryl Clay, who sent a private, people are mailing donations to also assist. And we appreciate there's no contribution at this point that is too small. We've sacrificed the farm. I even, at one point got really low and said, I'll even consider prostitution. I take it back. I'm not going to do that. But I'm just telling you that it was really worth yeah. Well, yeah. Tony just offered me a quarter. What the heck? I'm not, listen, I just had a birthday, but I got more going on than that, Tony. You better come with some dollars.
Anyway, we thank you guys so much. Hey, next week we have Devon Franklin coming to the show.
And we have a special. We're doing a MaD match, and so we're gonna get the couple that is being sent out on a date.
Our inaugural MaD match.
Our inaugural MaD match will come through, and there are others who submitted. We have not forgotten about you. So this is the first match that we've been able to actually make.
We want to thank Lexi, Drew, for actually being part of the show today and being transparent with us.
Lexi,
we know it's not your thing, but we appreciate it.
And we love you. And I'm so proud of you. You are everything that I've raised you to be. No, I'm just kidding. You're just
See you guys next week.
Can't help herself.